Today's episode of Wine Time Fridays is brought to you in part by our friends at Terrazzo Waterfront Grill, Naked Wines, and J. Bookwalter Wines.
It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelley and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelley and Phil. It's wine time!
Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil on this last Friday of February 28th, episode 254. Happy Friday, Shelley, that's wine time. You went with the little one, didn't you? Didn't want to bring a whole bunch of attention your way. We have a guest today, and we have a guest that's a part of our Wine is Like Music series, Kevin Olsonberg with Odom. It's Odom Corp, right? Is that technically?
Odom Corp,
yeah.
Partnered with Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits.
Exactly.
Yep.
And, there is some, we're going to say this right on the front end. We are tasting through 3 wines today, and he doesn't even know what they are. Yeah, he will. And he's going to play drum riffs on the kit behind us, what he's tasting in the wine. And so these wines, but he knows these wines, and these wines are available here in North Idaho.
Yes.
Okay? Now, we happen to get all 3 of these wines at Pilgrim's Market, but that's because we know Sarah and like Sarah and love Pilgrim's Market, but that doesn't mean that they're not available any other place. So, if you don't like buying from Pilgrim's Market, I'm not sure why, go to your favorite wine bottle shop, lounge, store, Fred Meyer, and ask away, and they are available. So, with that said, I'm going to open our first wine, but Kevin, talk a little bit about how you became a drummer. How long have you been drumming? I was very careful in that question because you don't just become a drummer, you kind of work up to it. Well, maybe you did.
Yeah. It was kind of a funny story a little bit in that when I was in 9th grade, my best friend was in the school band and kept talking to me, dude, you gotta get into the band. This, we're having fun.
Girls love people in bands.
Yeah, we weren't quite there at that point, but and I thought, well, that would be fun, but I don't know what I would do because I had zero musical experience at that point. That was a nice sound.
Sure was.
I love that sound. And so at the time, my brother had been, I'll look away.
No, you're fine.
My brother had been playing drums, basically just a snare drum in the band, and he was not continuing on with it, so we had a drum laying around the house. So I thought that'll be what I do. And when I started, it really, quite honestly, just became pretty natural for me to learn that instrument and everything that went along with it, and I just never stopped. And that was a few years ago. That was 40 years ago. I'll be 55 this year.
Okay.
And
for some reason,
9th grade, I think, is 15 years old, roughly, 9th grade. So, I just kept playing and learned different parts of the percussion world and went to school for it and all of that good stuff. So,
what is your go-to genre of music?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a tricky question right now.
Yeah.
For me personally, playing-wise, I really enjoy playing things in that funk and soul world. It's got just like this big, thick, fat backbeat.
Play that funky
just
music,
a groove,
white boy.
Tower of Power and that kind of stuff.
Love it. It's all about
that
soul.
said, somehow over the past 20 years, I sort of found a home in the country world in this market, and I've been playing mostly country music the last 20 years,
Okay.
probably. But I do get the opportunity to fill in with other bands and that play few more things that are a little bit more in my personal desire, I suppose, playing music. So, but the country music world has been really good to me in this market. So.
I was doing a little research on this, and I pulled up some of the more popular rock drummers, jazz drummers, country drummers, things like that. But do you model is there an influence at the very front end of when you really started getting to being a drummer?
Yeah, the guys that I listened to early on, I would say would be more in the jazz world. Mm-hmm. Guys like Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa, and then moving into the fusion world, guys like Dave Weckl, which are, I think, the reason that I sort of listened to those guys a little bit more. Number one, it was my surroundings and the people that I was hanging out with. That's the music they listened to.
For sure.
With other musicians, that's the style of music a lot of times that we listen to. But I think the other thing was that, especially when you listen to a guy like Dave Weckl, and in the rock world, a guy like Neil Peart from Rush, those guys took drumming to a musical level, and it wasn't just playing a beat. It wasn't just keeping time. It was keeping time, but also adding a musical element and making the drums an actual instrument in the band.
How about Steve Gadd?
Steve Gadd, one of my, you listen to Steve Gadd, a guy that transformed what a groove is. Yeah. You listen to 50 Ways to Lose Your Lover, or Leave Your Lover, 50 Ways.
Yeah, when you leave, you will lose.
You will lose. I mean, that is a beat. If you don't stop and listen to that beat, I was just practicing it a little while ago. It's one of the most challenging beats that I've ever had. But you pull up anything with Steve Gadd on it, and he is just a pocket drummer.
Did you ever get into stuff?
What do you mean?
The band stuff?
No.
Okay. It's like Cornell Dupree, Steve Gadd,
never heard.
Richard T on keyboards. I'll send it to you.
I'm sure you will.
It's because those are the guys that are session players.
Yeah.
When you're a session player, you really have to be good, top to bottom, and all the way on each side.
Yeah.
You have to.
Vinny Colaiuta is another one of those guys
Yeah.
played with just about everybody.
Yep.
In fact, there's a video, not to get sidetracked, but there's a video out there and it's a Buddy Rich memorial concert, and it's Dave Weckl, Steve Gadd, and Vinny Colaiuta playing a basically a drum solo, but all three of them taking their turns and playing behind each other while the other guy takes the lead. Look it up. Even if you're not a drummer, it is an amazing piece of music.
Down in the show notes, you'll see a link to that YouTube. By the way, Stuff, which is Steve Gadd on drums, they also had another drummer. I'm not sure who the other drummer was, but you can hardly tell there are two drummers on that. Okay, we've got a little bit in the music. By the way, we are at the Moose Lounge North. Easy for me to say. I want to say Lodge. Big thank you to them. We're going to probably talk a little bit about, Shelly's got a menu and things like that, but right now I think it's time that we do this. We're going to do a proper Wine Time Fridays toast, which is to health and wealth, abundance and gratitude and romance, and
peace on earth.
Cheers.
That was pretty.
Now this had a little time to open up. Any first thoughts on this?
Well, it's white.
Good. He speaks the truth.
Gosh, for me, there's a really cool minerality in here. On the nose, I was getting some kind of lemon curd notes on the nose. There's a touch of, this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to say pleasing astringency to this wine.
I like that. Pleasing astringency. Hashtag pleasing astringency. That's really good. Now the hashtags don't have a place anymore.
It's a cool wine.
Yeah, and this is
Great. This is a great food wine too.
Yeah, and it's had a chance to open up a little bit as we've been chatting. The deal that I made with Kevin is he is not being expected to identify the wine. Perfect. That's not a problem. But you did give us some feedback. Now you are expected to play what you taste.
First question before I do that.
Yeah.
Is this the wine that was on the roof of your car? It's 22 degrees outside, and so I imagine they left wine on the roof of their car. We can strike this if you want.
No, not at all. Here's the deal, okay? At the time of this recording, it is mid-20s out there, and it's been in the fridge, but I didn't want to pack a cooler. It's like, so when we got here, I put it on the roof of the car. So it's been on the roof of the car for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just stay chilled is all.
Yeah.
I didn't want it room temp.
No, we didn't drive down here.
No, although if we revisit this, it will become room temp, and I'll bet it's got all sorts of different flavors in
There's
it.
a little petrol thing in there. Maybe that's that pleasing astringent.
Maybe
Okay.
it came from the roof of the car.
So here we go. Kevin Olsonberg. I think you're a little out of key.
Well,
That would be difficult.
That was always the
I think you're a little out of line.
probably. Well, I live there, so I know.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
By the way, well, let's get to that riff that you played, because that had a nice little sachet, a nice little swing to it.
Yeah, and for me, this wine is bright, and so, gosh, I was just feeling this little kind of dance, this little light dance, which is why I kind of stayed in the higher tones of the drum kit.
Yeah.
With cymbals and the snare drum, throwing a little kick drum in there. That may have been the I can't even remember what I said. The pleasing astringency that I was tasting, but
I like it.
yeah, it just felt light and bright, and that's kind of what I was trying to portray in that.
It was. So this is really interesting because we started with Phil Merson with One Is Like Music with sax, then we moved to Todd Hornby with guitar, and then we had
Love Todd Hornby, great friend
keyboard player. Name is escaping me right now. Barry Aiken.
of mine. Barry Aiken.
Okay, so those are the three. Now we have Kevin Olsonberg, which it would be really fun to get the four of them together in One Is Like Music.
I've actually
jam.
played with Todd. The three of us have played together before, and I played in a band with Barry before actually as well, which really enjoyed that experience. That's a lot more the style of music that I would like to be playing. So,
Well, are you ready? Shelley, you don't have your notes out, so you can't unveil it, do you?
I don't have my notes, period.
Okay.
They're at the table.
That's great. So,
I know.
this is
What
a
do you have?
2019
oh wow,
Sauvion Sancerre. $43 at Pilgrim's Market. There we go.
A Sauvignon sense.
that explains that minerality
Yep.
and that vibrant acidity.
And didn't you say a petrol thing in there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which all of that comes in, you know, if it was, a Riesling or Viognier or something like that, it would be a little bit more petrol forward. But the fact that this is from...
Yeah. So Sancerre, Sauvignon Blanc grape, and from that specific region of the Loire Valley, you get these kind of chalky soils. So that that minerality always comes through. A little slaty minerality always comes through. If I had my choice to drink white wine, it would be a Sancerre. Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
And I do know, and I'll just throw this out, if you go to Pilgrim's, they currently don't have this on the shelf, but there and pretty much any other fine wine shop that you go to, you can either call ahead and pre-order or walk in and special order something. They all get deliveries at least once a week from all of their purveyors, and so it's pretty, I feel pretty confident in saying that if you were to walk in there, you would be able to pick that wine up within 7 days.
Oh, for sure. And
whether it's this wine or anything else from another distributor. So.
And by the way, well, Shelley, why don't you, because you haven't said much, why don't you talk a little bit about what you're getting from this? Because this is really sensational.
What he said.
Great. That's awesome.
I get a little oak on this, though. Do they put oak in their Sancerre?
I don't think they do any oak on this.
It's all stainless.
If they do, it might be neutral.
I think that
which could be a thing with them. I'm not sure, but
So with the Fume Blancs, and as opposed to just the Sauvignon Blancs, which is the same grape, why is the Fume? Do they do oak on that? Do you know? Like I know Mondavi has a Fume.
Yeah, and that was kind of a thing that Mondavi came up with. It was a term that he came up with, Fume Blanc, which was his Sauvignon Blanc that he aged in oak barrels.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a nod to, I think, to Puy Fume, which is a Sauvignon Blanc, also from the Loire Valley, but a different area of the Loire Valley. So,
and Fume is smoke.
Fume is smoke, and it's not because of the California fire.
Not because of the California fires, no.
We did have this Sauvignon Blanc once in the den, and you went into the cigar room. It came back with smoke on it.
It's going to pick it up.
Yeah.
That's...
Sauvignon Blanc is a light grape, so anything that you expose it to is going to have a pretty profound influence on the final characteristics of the wine.
Well, I will say this before we go to break. As I was preparing this morning for this, I was talking to Chris Cochran a week or two ago and brought up what we were going to do, Wine is Like Music, with you as a drummer, and the challenges that this posed, the audio challenges. We're going to be in the lounge. Thank goodness we haven't got a lot of people here, but there's going to be the echo. It's not the best place to record. But I said, Kevin plays the drums like I would play the drums if I played drums. Okay? And what that means is when I was sitting at the keyboard, when we were playing on the worship team, I had Kevin and I just turned left, just kind of like I am right now. And I knew what you were going to play before you played it because that's how I would play it. And I don't know.
Great minds think alike?
Well, I'll go with that. But the song that stands out that we played was Rhythm of Grace by Hillsong, right? Hillsong United. Do you remember that song at all?
I wish I did.
Oh my gosh. It was so good, and I had a fun little keyboard at the end, and Kevin had this probably minute and a half of build-up with these rhythms that kept building on top, and you just played it flawlessly, and you had to, or everyone else would lose. But it wasn't an easy song to play, in my opinion. Nothing was easy for me to play, though. So, with that said, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to move to a red. Yep.
Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays, episode 254. On this Friday, February 28th, the last day of the month, because it's not leap year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So the next month is the same.
It is. All the days, the numbers fall on the same days. I hate that. It's confusing the crap out of me. Ready for that sound again?
It helps with my monthly calendar, so
yeah, probably.
If you're looking at how bills are paid and all of that kind of stuff. It all falls on the same day, 2 months in a row.
That's
they-
true.
I'll look away.
Okay.
Here's me looking away, so I don't.
Kevin, do
see
you
what
want
they
a rinse pour in your glass?
Not necessary, but sure. I don't know.
Because it's very important for you to know everything here. Kevin has turned away, as he should, and
You used the dump bucket.
I did. How about that? Oh, hey, here we go.
Can I turn around yet?
You may.
So I will say, we played. I'm playing with the Treese Edwards band here at the Moose Lounge this weekend, which is not the weekend you'll be hearing this, but I know Shelly's got the menu there, and I had a smash burger.
Oh, is that right?
It was amazing, absolutely amazing. The food here is really great. They did an amazing job remodeling this place. Really cleaned it up from when it was Razzles before that.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And just a huge shout out again to Dave Pullis and the Moose Lounge crew for allowing us to come in here and do this and make some noise on a morning where early afternoon where there's patrons in here, and they don't seem to mind as of yet. We'll see.
No, as we're getting in the red, though, we're getting a little bigger. So perhaps Kevin's plane will become a little bigger. I am going to, before we have a sip here, I want to. Here's what I came up with. Yeah, oh, for sure. Oh, we can have a taste.
No,
What the
I
heck?
don't want to.
Well, you know, it's not a rush, but let's go ahead and hashtag cheersing.
Cheersing.
Hashtag cheers.
It's big. And even though it wasn't on the roof, it's still a little chilled.
Perfect
Yes.
temperature.
This could open up a little bit, and the legs on this are amazing. I'm going to remove the Sancerre from there because we'll be putting another bottle up shortly. This thing has got a really long finish. I'm very interested in what's going to come out of those drums based off this. Hey, so as a drummer, you do actually tune your skins, right? I mean, the
I
heads and
do.
stuff.
It's you can make a really inexpensive, poorly made drum kit sound pretty decent if you tune them properly. I don't tune them to actual notes.
Okay.
There's some drum companies out there that actually the shells are stamped inside what the notes should be. That
Interesting.
how they produce that drum. My drum kit is not one of those.
Okay.
I like to make sure that they have a good tone coming out of the drum when I strike it, and that I try to build the toms into a triad. Bum bum bum.
Oh yeah.
Because there are times where you hit two drums at the same time and you don't want that dissonance of, two different tones clashing.
Right.
Even though they're drums and they're loud and people probably don't pay that much attention to the tone of it, I do. And I don't like to play drums that are not tuned. So even when I sit on somebody else's drum set, I will hit them first and then ask if I can tune them up because I'm picky that way.
Well, and every drummer, as any musician, will have their own nuances, I would imagine. What are you playing?
My kit is a PDP Concept Maple, which is Pacific Drum Company. It's a second label for a higher end drum company called DW. It's a 5-piece drum kit, meaning there's kick drum, it's a 22-inch bass drum, and then 3 toms. My toms sizes are a 10-inch, 12-inch, and 14-inch for the floor tom. And then my snare drum is actually a drum that I purchased separately, and it's a Tama SLP 6.5-inch deep by 14-inch snare drum made of bubinga wood. Bubinga, yes.
Wow. Interesting.
I played that drum a long time ago, and I was on the search for it when I was ready to buy a new snare drum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How often do you need to buy replacement pieces?
Typically, it's drum heads that you replace, just like guitar strings. And
But you're not going to poke anybody out in the eye when a string breaks, when a head breaks. It's just like it's going to rip or something, right?
But I replace my tom heads and my snare head probably once a year. They could stand to be changed more than that. My kick drum head every couple years probably. And then my cymbals are all Zildjian cymbals. That's just what I played for my life. And
it's funny because you said this is like a second label. Much like the wine world, you both have your duck horn and then your decoy.
Yeah.
And a multitude of other, and the other one, DeLille, has their high-end stuff, and then they have their D2. Although they don't, it's still DeLille, so.
D2 is still DeLille, but they did come out with a new label called Métier.
Really?
Which is a more accessible price point.
Yeah.
Which is how I like to say it's more affordable.
Sure.
Less expensive, but
and
just more accessible for every day.
I feel like, and we can pull this out, but I feel like I want to, because this brings up a whole topic of wine prices. They're dropping right now.
Really?
And because it seems like the market is softening a little bit. Is that what you're?
The market is softening. I see less and less people drinking alcohol as a whole, and people that are, I think, are drinking less. And the younger generation has alternative forms
Now that it's legal.
of enjoyment, if you will.
Look at you being all politically correct.
And so that's definitely, and there's other entries into the beverage alcohol category with seltzers and vodka-based, pre-mixed cocktails. What the RTDs,
category.
ready to drink category. And so there's more options out there, and I think that's why you'll start seeing domestic wine prices dropping. I don't know that we'll see that with imports. I think imports are going to continue to climb up because of some other things that are happening in the world. But
Sure, and they may price themselves out of the domestic market, except for the high end, where people who they don't care, they've got money to burn, they'll continue to buy those.
Yeah.
Well, should we give him a shot at?
This one, yes.
Well, what are you getting from this to begin with? This is very unique to me.
The first thing that pops out to me, which is what you were saying, this wine could probably stand to open up, is these mouth-coating tannins, which the structure of this wine is.
They stick around too.
Is pretty aggressive. Interesting. A lot of dark fruit in this.
Getting a little licorice and some.
This is pretty
tar.
This is a pretty aggressive wine.
I didn't know where I should put the next two in order. Hopefully I didn't
We'll find
mess
out.
that. Yeah, we'll find out. I just didn't know. All right. On the drums, Kevin Olsonberg. Okay. I must say.
One more time. Encore.
That was really good.
Wow, that makes sense. if that's the one. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wine.
Damn it. Okay, well, let's just get there. It is a 2020 Termes España.
Not sure
The
yet.
light is just not helping me here, but that's all right. Yeah,
This
$41 at Pilgrim's.
This is a cool wine. This is so this is a wine from a grape called Tinto de Toro, and which is out of the Toro region of Spain, which is just down. If you're in Portugal, it's in Spain, just off the northeast corner of
Okay.
Portugal, if you will. Very hot, and it's a clone of Tempranillo.
Okay.
Basically, is what this grape is. This wine is from a winery called Numancia, and they make 3 wines, and this is their quote unquote entry level. That said, again, pretty aggressive, which is makes sense for this wine.
Yeah.
These wines typically take probably 5 years at least. Well, this is a 2020.
It's 2020, but
it's
we're like
still
at the front end of it,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Very aggressive. It's very hot down there, of course. The vines for this winery are very old. I want to say the youngest vines are probably 25 years. So this wine is made from vines that are 25 to 50 years old. They have 2 other wines. The Terramonthia, this is Termes. They make a wine called Terramonthia, which is their middle tier, and then Numancia, which is their high-end wine, which is gonna probably be in that, I would say, $125 to $150 range.
Okay.
It might be more than that.
Yeah.
A lot more or just a little more?
Little more, just a little more. As it goes up in price, it goes up in different vineyard selections. So they have vines in their vineyard that are in that 100+ range. And so when you get into the Numancia, all the fruit comes out of those super, super old wines. This
I'm
is a
guessing
really
they're
cool wine.
Also hand-picked.
All
at that
hand-picked.
point. Would this be hand-picked as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. No machine harvesting there.
Nope.
So you're not getting the bugs.
No bugs. Well, no bugs.
No big bugs.
No big bugs. That's a cool wine. Thank you for pulling that.
Well, you can thank Sarah because I gave her the outline, the parameters, and I've been sitting on this for 2, maybe 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fun to taste your own portfolio?
It is, and it's fun to do it blind.
Yeah.
Because I don't do enough of that, and I encourage, that's 15%. I
15,
encourage
interesting.
your listeners to do some brown bag tastings
Yes.
because and try to figure out what the wines are, because I've done only a small amount of those, and I have to do it more as a wine professional, but even as a consumer, I think it's super important, because when you're tasting and you don't know what it is, it really, your mind has to open up your senses, and it has to open up your vocabulary, and what are you tasting,
Yeah.
and what could this be? And it's really important if this is something that you want to
Sure.
venture into, go down that rabbit hole, if you will.
Well, I remember a blind tasting at the Culinary Stone, and I think there were 5 wines that were being poured, and 2 of them were a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and another one was an Oregon Pinot Noir. I didn't identify those, and those are the ones that I would know for sure. And maybe a Chard, I could
You would
probably,
think.
maybe a little bit of oaky Chard, I could probably. But you're so right. When you go in blind, you kind of, all the preconceived, everything is out the window, and now you're going only on your experience and what you're going with. I would hope that was about 3 years ago or
And that was
longer.
longer than that.
Yeah, I would hope
Remember
I'd
the
be a little bit.
rosé and the Chardonnay?
Yes, we were at a place in southern
Place
Idaho,
that is no longer.
so we can say.
we can't say, but
Oh, we
what the-
won't. Okay. It was
wasn't bad.
it was
It
really
was-
interesting
It
because
was
I
2020.
poured Shelley a rosé and then a Chardonnay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't tell the difference,
Either could you.
and neither could
Because
I.
of the color?
No, I mean, we were doing
it was
it
blind.
Oh, okay.
I did it blind.
Did you have the black glasses?
No.
Or, okay, so you could see the color.
I think I had her close her
So-
eyes.
Oh, gotcha.
We switched it around
Yeah.
and closed her.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess you knew which ones you were tasting, but then she closed her eyes and I switched them around. Yeah. So it's interesting. You know, that's whole John Cleese video. It's only
About the
25.
red and the white.
Yeah, the red and the white. If they're in a like you said.
Sorry, folks. I just got to type these things down so I remember them because I'm getting old.
Of course, they
That's
will
what
be
it's
on
called, the
show
red
notes,
and the
I'm
white?
sure. I'm not sure. I'll find it and send it to you. It's really, really good. And John Cleese is an avid wine drinker, but it's funny because people didn't know what they were tasting, whether it was a red or white, and 60-70% of them misidentified.
Yeah.
And so it has everything to do with all the five senses, maybe 4 of the 5. What?
We don't want to
Hearing.
stomp our
Hearing, maybe
If we
hearing.
are stomping our feet in the wine, then it's all fine.
Well, and we're bringing hearing to this episode, in a sense. Okay, well, let's keep going with this.
So, going back to really quick to the blind tastings, I mentioned black glasses. I don't know if you've seen those, but it's taking blind tasting to the next level where the glass is actually black, so you can't, and you serve everything at the same temperature.
Yeah.
And I haven't done one of these before,
Yeah.
but I hear that they're life-changing. Master Psalms, guessing Cabernet, guessing reds as whites and whites as reds.
Oh my gosh.
And it's pretty amazing. So
Now we need some black glasses.
I don't know.
Amazon.
I don't know. I will say this when
that's delicious.
it is really interesting, and it is good. It's very unique. I don't think I've had anything quite like this before. When we were playing at the church, Lake City Church, we don't know each other in depth at all because you see each other probably every 2 to 3 weeks when you're on the team, and I found out Kevin was a wine distributor, and that was when Shelley and I were getting into drinking more wine, and so I was very intrigued.
Yeah.
In fact, in the green room, I would just hound you probably
Yeah.
with questions. Then you went over to a little bit more of the harder,
Spirits.
the spirit
Spirits,
side, yeah.
I went to the spirit world.
Well, spirit side anyway. Not in the spirit world yet, and then now you're back in the wine.
Yeah. So there was back in 2012, there was a pretty good opportunity professionally for me to move into the spirit side of the business and still sell some wine over in Washington when all their liquor laws changed, and I made that move and managed a portfolio for all of Eastern Washington, and it was a great professional move. It was a bit of a disaster at first, not just because Washington State was brand new to this whole privatization of selling liquor, and it was again, I learned a lot, and I'm glad I did it, but I don't ever want to sell spirits again. just gonna say it.
You're being so vague. Tell us what you really think.
Well, there's I don't know. There's just, it's just a different vibe to sell spirits, and there's some people that are really, really good at it and that really enjoy it. I like the wine world where I can tell stories and where the beverage actually means something, and you get into some of those high-end bourbons and single malt scotch
and
or
tequilas,
single malt
yeah,
scotches
sure,
and things like that. That there's stories behind there.
Right.
You go into Johnny Walker and things like that, and the whole
Right.
Booker portfolio,
Right.
and there's definitely stories and history there, but it's just a different vibe to sell spirits, and it's a different vibe in Washington in larger markets. And so when there was an opportunity for me to come back to North Idaho, where I pretty much started in this business back in 1999, 2000, I jumped at the chance, and I jumped at the chance to get back into my home territory, and I'm glad I did. And
Did you start in this industry from scratch, or did you have?
I started
a
before
runway?
I did this industry. I was worked in the hotel and restaurant world, and my final position there was beverage manager at a hotel called Cannonau in at the Park,
Okay.
over in Spokane. Which is the hotel is still there. It's a different name, under a different name now, but I know now that at that time I was way over my head. I had no idea what I'm doing, but that's where I started kind of getting the bug for working in the wine business. When I left there, I back then we answered newspaper ads. I don't know if you remember that. We answered newspaper ads.
What's a newspaper?
I actually left there, worked for a sports restaurant for a little while, for about a year and a half, and then that place closed down, and so I was out of work. Started looking for something new, and the wine industry found me, I probably should say. So.
I can't tell you how often we've heard that phrase, "caught the bug,"
Yeah,
in the wine world.
yeah.
Because we've had multiple guests on, and when you get into their stories, and that's where it bit me. And it's so interesting because that's really what it is. And then you keep moving on from there and growing and evolving.
Yeah, everybody has their wine, right? The wine that changed it for you. Do you guys
Yeah,
have
the
that
gateway
wine?
Yeah, well, let's.
The one that changed it for me. My gateway wine was like an Almadine Merlot. Just,
That's great. I love that. The gateway, it's different. There's like a gateway wine that you first started with, and then the wine that made you go, hold on.
That's actually a
Yeah.
This
really
is not
good
just
point.
a beverage. There's something.
Yeah. What was yours?
Well, I want to hear what Shelley's was first after Almaden. What was it?
Almadine Merlot.
Merlot. Okay.
Almadine, I don't think they're in existence anymore. It's probably like a
I think
Gallo,
Almadine
but
is
it
out
was,
there, yeah.
It was vintage, but it was. I joined something called Wino in California, Wine Investigation for Novices and Innovates, and they had at the Hobbit Christmas they would serve like a 8-course meal with 15 different wines. And so, believe it or not, the wine that really impressed me was the Rombauer Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Way
Butter
back
bomb.
then.
Yeah.
That's what I like. But
I could see that as a wine that could transform somebody from. I have to be careful kind of how I say this because Rombauer, very well respected
Sure.
in the wine world.
Yeah, for sure.
Great producer, and
With a long history. for
with a
sure.
long
Yeah.
history. And but their style of wines, I could see how you could go from something in that lower tier world and just make that absolute jump into higher end with the style of wines that they make. They're very accessible to a wide variety of palates, and so I can see that. Yeah,
We've had a Rombauer recently, well, semi-recently, 7-8 months ago, and they've really come off the heavy oak stuff, and
Well, they're
I think
still
more
pretty
balanced.
oak,
Yeah.
but, yeah. But that was back when all the Chardonnays in California were
Yep.
very buttery,
Yeah.
very big.
Kendall Jacksons of the world, and yeah. What about you?
Well, so I will talk about this next week with John Freeman.
Oh.
But I will say this: I had a double, like you said, which is really actually well put. You have one that kind of you're like, oh, this is really good. Sutter Home White Zinfandel.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I probably didn't have a lot of wine because I was married to an alcoholic, and so it wasn't good. And then I wasn't married to someone that was an alcoholic. I was with Shelley, and we got back into the wine world, at least me, and it was Marseillais Chardonnay.
Yeah.
That was my gateway, and to this day, it holds a special.
Is that the wine that also made you go, aha?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
In fact, I may have even said that at the time. I can remember at your place in Yorba Linda, and we poured that, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then I was on a quest to find Marseillais everywhere, you know. So And so now, Kevin.
So I can't remember really what my gateway wine was because I was in that hotel world and we had a fine dining restaurant.
Sure.
And so I sort of started out drinking pretty good wines right off the bat. But I remember the wine that was my aha wine, which was Robert Mondavi, 1999 Reserve Cabernet.
Oh, nice.
And we had just picked up the brand. I don't sell it anymore, but we just picked up the brand. We were having a supplier meeting down at Crickett's downtown, Coeur d'Alene, and the regional manager had brought a magnum of this to pour for our team. And I remember it was the first wine that I sat and smelled for 20 minutes before I even took it.
Exactly.
And,
that's what I'm saying.
And that was my wine that I went, okay, I kind of got it before. Now I really
Right.
get it.
Now I'm on a quest to find like wines. You know, it probably took you a little time for your palate to catch up to that quality, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was,
In a sense, because you know, you to say going from point A to point M,
Yeah.
all right,
like that. Yeah.
You kind of look. Your ramp is probably much quicker than most, but still, there's a ramp there, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, but during my early time, and that was probably maybe 2 or 3 years into my professional wine experience, and so during that period, I was exposed to a lot of wine, and you're right, my palate grew up pretty quick, really quick,
for sure.
And so to find that and to have it go, this is it. It was life-changing.
The Mondavi 78 Cabernet Reserve was also really good.
When did you have that?
Way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
83 or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Oh man, we need to toast Robert Mondavi. He really helped domestic wines. Well,
We'll have to get some other wine before.
you'll get some. We'll retoast.
Let's retoast on the next one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And with that said, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to go to that last wine. Hello and welcome back to Wine Time Fridays, episode 254 with Kevin Olsonberg with Odom, but more importantly, Kevin Olsonberg, the musician, because this is Wine is Like Music 4.0.
Well done.
Thank you. Okay, so
You
now
better
we're
rinse
doing.
for everybody.
No, I don't think on this one. This is me. We're not going to tell you what we're pouring because Kevin is playing his drum kit to what he tastes. And you may look again. I spilt more red wine on my jeans.
Oh, good.
That's okay though because the other jeans are in the wash, so I'll put these
So
in
do you have special jeans that you wear for Wine Time Friday episodes?
Seems like maybe that would be the case.
You'll have wine time.
I always laugh at people that, and I'm guilty of it as well, but I always laugh at people that wear white to wine tastings.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? And then they go, "What was I thinking?" As they spill
I
wine.
wore white to an alpaca ranch, which is not a good idea. A white jacket.
Oh, Shelley. Live and learn, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this.
I know this is not Robert Mondavi, but should we toast to
Yes.
the
do this real quick.
To both Mondavis. They
coming
both
back
did
to our
things in a
previous
different-
discussion?
Well, when you're swirling, it's bumping
yeah,
the
it bumps
tables,
the table.
and I know I'm gonna hear
Can
that.
you
I just
can you separate the tables?
Oh, we can do that, but it's fine. We'll do this. In fact, I'll even do that.
You know,
as
there's
well.
so many greats from the wine world and the history. People like Robert Mondavi and Rodney Strong and
Oh, I mean, domestically, yeah.
domestically, and you know, you get into people like Michel Roland, and I mean, there's just so many. And so I say we toast to those that
Blaze the trail.
those that blazed the trail.
Hashtag cheersy. It's a beautiful sound.
This one's loud.
Of course it is.
I think after that last wine, You could pour Mercury Head and it would be light.
I always think of a Tempranillo.
Maybe this is a palate cleanser.
This is. I always think of a Tempranillo as a little bit more medium bodied. But maybe I'm completely off base on that, since that last one was
It's those old vines that super hot climate. It's just it brings the whole idea of terroir to the forefront and
Yes.
where the grapes are from. Because I agree, I think Tempranillo can be a little softer, a little more fruit driven
Yeah.
a lot of times with some
Yeah.
spice behind it. But when you throw some age on those vines and you throw that super hot climate there, it's just gonna accentuate the tannins. You've got thicker skin as well down there because of that, and so that's gonna really accentuate those tannins. This, on the other hand,
This is interesting. Just to review, we've had a 2019 Sauvion Sancerre, $43 at Pilgrims. We've had the 2020 Termes España, $41 at Pilgrims, and we don't know what this one is yet. We haven't really touched on this. What would you, well, let me go ahead and start with this. 2 weeks ago was Valentine's Day, and we had you on record saying rack a lamb with an Amavi Syrah. Yeah. Did you actually go that route on Valentine's?
No, 'cause guess where
I
we
had
were?
on Valentine's Day. I had a smash burger at the Moose North because I was playing music.
That's a good point. What a
And,
great segue into where we are recording this.
And I never in my life have cooked rack of lamb. I enjoy consuming rack of lamb.
Did you have a beer or a glass of wine when you
I
were at?
I had a beer. I
And
actually
it
had a
went really well with that smash
It
burger.
did.
didn't
You know, at that point, I was not really thinking food and wine pairing. I was
No.
just,
I need to fill my belly.
I had finished setting up here, and I needed something refreshing, so I had a Bale
That's
Breaker
perfect.
Pilsner.
So
They have some interesting food here, though.
you want to go through that real
Like
quick?
a fried bologna sandwich.
Fried bologna sandwich.
I thought
That's a
they were-
bunch of baloney.
Yeah. And they have
Thank you. It's finally how ironic. That finally makes sense.
What else you got there, Shelly?
tater tot basket. And then you have it like a poutine, like in Canada, with the gravy.
Oh, poutine.
French
yeah.
fry poutine also. Coconut shrimp, that doesn't seem like they go on the
I see
same thing.
poutine on a lot of, not a lot, but a fair amount of menus in this market. I think it's in
Because
North
we're so
Idaho.
There
close
must
to
be
Canada.
more Canadians moving down.
Yeah, it could be.
A lot of smash burgers. Pepper smash, swish.
Highly recommended smash burgers.
Which one did you have? Do you know?
I had the porky blue cheese smash, which is blue cheese and bacon and all the stuff that's good for your heart.
Oh, yeah.
And then onion rings. Yep.
All the
Yep.
things
All
that's
the
good for you.
The other thing that's really great about here is they do have the option of tater tots, which last night I had onion rings, but usually if there's tater tots on the menu, I'm sorry, I'm going to order them.
Yeah.
Give me my tots, dude.
I mean, it's a throwback when we were
Yeah.
kids, and
Yeah.
that was almost a mainstay. At least in my house, it was. Well, Kevin,
Yeah.
are you? You want to talk a little bit about this before you sit down again to your kit? This clearly should have been the second wine that we had, but that's okay. We pivot.
Obviously lighter in body. I would call this medium. Medium body, probably. A little bit, not a little bit. We're not going to compare it to the last one because it's just totally night and day.
Sure.
Brighter, more red fruits in this wine. Really nice acid. Golly, this is actually a pretty wine. I
It
like
is
this wine. Yeah.
pretty is a great word
Yeah.
for this. So the first two wines, the first one was at Sancerre from France. The second one was from Spain. Any idea where this one might be from? I'm not asking him to identify the wine, just the region if he has an idea.
Well, I see a theme going here that perhaps you are sticking international and not domestic.
I don't know.
Could be wrong.
I have no clue.
You have a clue.
Well, I've never been to Spain,
I don't think this is a Spanish word.
but I kind of like the wine. That's not the lyrics.
I'm not going to guess.
Okay, good. Well, will you play us something, what you're tasting? That was your encore.
Oh, with the critic.
That was my favorite. But can I just say,
It seemed like you were playing a long time.
well, they weren't
Is there a-
sticks. This is a form of feather
Yeah.
sticks. He's gonna actually.
These are something that I use from time to time when brushes are
That's
too
what I'm
light
talking. Feather brushes. Yes,
and
I'm not a drummer.
sticks are too much. This is pretty versatile.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's got
because you
these
can.
little.
Yeah.
It's got these little, I don't know if you can see that, but it's got these little rubber bands on it. They're basically nylon brushes, and if you take these all the
You
way
get
down,
real soft.
you can use them as brushes,
Sure.
or you can use them as soft sticks. And this wine did not require drumsticks
No,
at all.
but you killed it with that.
Thank you.
Like I said, this was probably my favorite because of the synchro rhythms that were there. Brought us up, brought us down, pounded us a little bit.
This is a super versatile wine, which is kind of why I went with these softer drumstick brush thingies.
Thingies.
That's
That's
a technical.
technical term.
And
exactly.
then I turned the snares off, the snare drum.
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
kind
They
of
have a
the-
little slide thing on it.
Yeah, and it turns on or off the snares, which are these wires that go across the bottom
Yep.
that give it that really
Rattle.
high-pitched kind of rattle.
Yeah.
When you hit the snare drum, you can turn them off, and you get that main tone, kind of what I started with there. And again, this wine is versatile. The snare drum is very versatile. These sticks are versatile. And then because of the lighter, I kind of wanted, you're right, the finish. I extended that a little bit and played a little bit lighter and brought the volume down a little bit towards the end, just because this is a really pretty wine, and I just wanted to accentuate that. So
This pretty wine is a 2021 Olianas Cannonau.
oh wow, Cannonau di Sardinia.
Cannonau is correct, yes.
This wine does really well there at Pilgrim's. It's also on by the glass at
Lola?
Vicino
Oh,
Pizza.
Chino, really?
Yeah, that makes
At least it has been, yeah.
Yeah, Naomi would have this all day down there. Because it's $22. This is like a half of what the last one was,
very, very.
and it is tasting
This is-
way above its weight class.
This is I like this wine.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
haven't tried this wine. I haven't tasted any of these wines in a long time, but this one, it's been a while. But Cannonau is a grape that is indigenous to the island of Sardinia, which is one of the blue zones in the world. If you're not familiar with that, it's
Does it
where
have
people live
raspberry?
super healthy lifestyles and they live longer because
They're not having smash burgers.
they're not having smash burgers and onion rings. They take care of their bodies. They rest when they need to rest. There's something in the climate and the soil there, and there's like 7 or 8 of these blue zones around the world, and this is one of them.
One of them is Loma Linda
Loma Linda.
in California.
Interesting. So because of that, because that's a culture, right?
Yes.
Are there real estate prices jump up because everybody wants to live there, or not everybody wants to live there because they don't want to
Because
adhere to that culture?
I don't know the answer to that. I've never
Thought you knew
researched
everything.
real estate in Sardinia.
We've hit 3 wines with 3 solos.
very different.
Very different solos, and I just didn't know what to expect with this episode, and it's far surpassed what I was expecting. We're going to take one more break, and when we come back, we're going to do a little business, and we're going to talk about our wine word of the week, about some wines we tasted, things like that, and then Shelley, what will we do? We'll wrap it up. Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays, episode 254. Last day of February. We are with Kevin Olsonberg with Odom, that has graciously spent some time with us tasting through 3 of the wines that are in his portfolio that we got at Pilgrim's, but you can get anywhere here in North Idaho. All you have to do is ask. And it has been so much fun. Tell us what... When you came into this, did you do any preparation, or how did you think this was going to go?
I had no idea. I mean, here's the thing. Phil and I and Shelley, we've been talking about doing this for
Probably 3 years.
Yeah, easy, and just haven't really been able to make it work. And we finally were able to put this whole thing together, and this is kind of how I sort of anticipated, but I didn't really have any preconceived ideas of how it was going to go. Loved the conversation. I loved the discussion and going back in time, and just putting wine to music, is really fun. I've heard some of your other episodes, especially one with Todd Hornby. Just love that guy, and I think he's an amazing musician, and he did a phenomenal job with putting his music to wines. If you haven't seen him live, please go do so.
He should be playing here in town soon. They've gone through some things, which is fine. But you hear him every week because he is the intro and outro music that he wrote and recorded for our little podcast.
It's not AI.
He's not AI. No.
It's TH.
No,
He's
he's anything but.
He's TH.
But I've had a truly wonderful time. So thank you for inviting me to this, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
I think so. Let's talk now. So I have to do all of this because Shelley has no notes. The Elsom Cellars wine word of the week is, I guess, timbre. In the
Timbre.
well,
Timbre,
it's spelled
Timbre.
Timbre. In music, timbre refers to the unique tone, color, or voice of a musical instrument or sound, including drums, which is what we heard, all of those different sounds today. In wine, when describing wine, we're going to pronounce it the same. I see it as timbre, but timbre refers to the unique tone or voice of a wine. It's a poetic way to capture the distinctive character or personality of a wine. We have had 3 very different wines today. Very different. All very good. What would you pair for food on that middle one, the big one?
Boy, cow,
Beef.
grilled, peppered, steak.
Have it.
Just it's something. I mean, and realistically, that's a wine. So we probably have a little bit of that left in the warehouse. I don't think they have it on the shelf down there, but you can definitely special order it at any of your fine wine shops around town. I would find that wine and I would set it in your cellar and lay it down before it's gone.
We better get some more.
I would probably lay that down for another at least 2 or 3 years. But here's the thing with laying down wines, though. If you don't buy a wine because it needs to be laid down, then you're never going to experience that wine, right? Yeah. You're going to, well, why would I buy that if I can't drink it now? Well, there's other things you can drink now, but if you want to experience something like this in 5 years from now, which is going to be absolutely glorious, you have to buy it now.
And here's the funny thing. You're going to pay $40-some for it, but it's going to, when you're tasting it in 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years, if you have that sort of
$80, $90.
Yeah, the price point on that is way up there. And then you get that. Shelly and I, okay, I'm gonna go cut to this right here, some wines that we had this week that we enjoyed, because we had one of those wines. Some of the wines we enjoyed this week, so this is a long name, Castelli del Greve Pesa Clemente Rosso di Toscana. Sticking with Italy, Tenamente de Alessandro Viognier. Then we had a Waterbrook Chardonnay. Kevin, you know about Waterbrook Chardonnay.
Yes, I do. You're going to learn a little bit about Waterbrook Chardonnay next week, right?
No, a little bit. We touch on it. We did more, because I'm going to go ahead and say it. We did some epic shit next week. And you'll know what I'm talking about. We had a Kreutz Chardonnay, which is very good. Mm-hmm. And then the Artisa Cabernet Sauvignon was 2012. It was 13 years old. We are trying to pull back a little bit on our wine consumption. That didn't work with that. That was a full bottle.
And that goes to what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm tying that in, because this will soften up in the coming years. It's drinkable now, but you're going to need to let that thing open up a little bit.
And you're going to need food with it.
And you're going to need food.
That is not a cocktail wine.
No.
This Olianas Cannonau, you could open that up and
that one.
It's gonna go great with food, because that acidity, that brightness, is gonna cut through some of the acids in the food. But that's a wine you could pour a glass and drink while you're preparing dinner as well.
So we talked a little bit about drummers, and we're gonna wrap this up very soon. Elvin Jones, you know who Elvin Jones is? Mm-hmm. Okay, with the John Coltrane Quartet. How about Danny Glass? Do you know Daniel Glass?
I do know. You actually sort of not introduced me, but introduced me to Danny Glass. Phenomenal drummer, great instructor.
Yes,
great.
Very much on the education aspect. And he's played with Setzer. He's played with RCR, Royal Crown Review, and he goes all in.
Yeah.
All in. He, the whole zoot suit and all of that. But I had to give him a shout out because we love him a lot. Did you mention John Bonham?
I didn't, but what an influencer on rock and roll drumming as a whole. And
it's been a long time since rock and roll. That's all him, right?
And it's more than just his playing. Let's go to timbre of his drums. The sound, the tone of his drums is something that a lot of drummers in the rock and roll world try to emulate, and it's not an easy thing to do because there's a lot of stuff going on there that got his sound the way that they did. And Phil Collins is another one of those guys that you can't duplicate his sound.
Isn't that something? Phil Collins, because he plays so many instruments.
He does. Yeah. No, there's a couple albums that he's played every instrument and sang.
So we mentioned Todd Hornby and how great of a musician he is.
Yeah.
I think people sometimes don't understand how difficult it is to emulate. Can it be emulated? Yes. But when we played a Bonnie Raitt tune and he had to go into a slide guitar solo, it took him time to get that. I was like, sorry, I'm learning Bonnie Raitt.
Yeah.
So just a huge shout out to you and your musicianship. I won't talk about any more drummers at this point, but what I will say is, coming up on the 13th of March is Riesling Day. Coming up
I love
on
Riesling.
I know you're probably German Riesling, yeah. Coming up on the 17th, Malbec Day. We have Marcelon Day on the 26th of March. What to expect next week? We've already teased it a little bit. John Freeman with the whole Waterbrook portfolio, the Browns Family Vineyard, and Do Epic Shit. I can say it because it says it right on their label. I'm not sure if I have to slap an explicit tag on it or not. The sounds you're hearing in the background are because we are at Moose Lounge North, and we are accumulating people, and that's the energy that is here, what we love. Thank you to today's sponsors, Terraza, Waterfront Grill, Naked Wines, and J. Bookwalter Wines. I think that's everything. Oh, did you bring us out? With a little bit of knowledge. First of all, thank you, Kevin.
My pleasure. Thank you
Yeah,
for having me.
this is so
Thank
much
you
fun.
for. I'm glad it finally we were able to put this together because
Yeah.
it literally has been a long time coming. And
Yeah.
so ton of fun.
And
Great. You picked a great selection of wines too.
Oh,
That was a
well,
lot of
again,
fun.
not me. Thank you to Sarah. Thank you to Sarah at Pilgrims. Yeah, go say hi to her with a little
Sarah.
bit of knowledge. Wine becomes a lot less overwhelming. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week as we get into Washington Wine Month in March. Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelley and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you. To health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.